Is maximizing your life a dream? Is it something that's only available for a select few, people that are just lucky to have good fortune come their way? Or can anybody maximize their life? Come on this journey with Valerie Maksym, author of the book Maksymizing Life, and her journey through 22 years of abusive marriage and then learning to overcome her own lack of self-love, to love herself tremendously and maximize her life.
Welcome to eSHAIR.care, an all-inclusive community sharing experience, strength, and hope to create strong, healthy, and inspiring relationships. eSHAIR.care communities work toward every individual feeling safe, valued, and heard, free from the threat of danger, pain, or harm. Each episode, founder Damian Andrews explores the principles underpinning eSHAIR.care and invites expert special guests to share their knowledge so you can easily reap the benefits so many others experience. You hold the choice to create your future. Let it be with strong, healthy, and inspiring relationships.
Hello and welcome to eShare. Here we discuss, promote, and share the benefits to all from living in an egalitarian society, including for men. Inaccurate propaganda leads some men to believe that they miss out with equality. The reality, suppressing women is detrimental to men. Creating a world where everyone can contribute equally makes everyone better off. And today it's my great pleasure to welcome Valerie Maksym to our show. Valerie is a high-performance coach and a certified life coach with a focus on mindset training and self-development. She teaches 4 steps to unleash your inner superhero. Valerie is also a nationally qualified NCP figure bodybuilding competitor and author of the book Maksymizing Life. Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a great pleasure to have you on the show. Do you want to start? We can go in the Wayback Machine, go back in time to some of your background and some of the challenges that you went through and you had to overcome to get to doing what you're doing now and how that helps others.
Okay, we can start back, I guess, whenever I was a child, because I literally have not figured things out. I was like 50 years old. That's why I love to share and to help, because if I can help somebody, in their younger years, that's my, my whole mission. But I would say, starting back when I was a child, my dad he got leukemia. Mm-hmm. And he passed away when I was 12. And I was the last person with him when it happened. I was up with him in the night, taking care of him at 12 years old.
Wow.
Because my mom was really tired. And so I helped him, and he fell. And long story short, like that all took place right in front of my eyes. And I ran to my bedroom, and then my mom came running in, and we never spoke about it after that.
Really?
Like it happened, and it was just as if nothing. The next day was just like back to normal, back to school, back to it was just like it just didn't happen. So. I think that if I have to go back to where things just really started shifting more so downhill for me, that would have been a pivotal moment of, not knowing how to process it. So by not knowing how to process it, I just pretended like it didn't happen. I just pretended like my dad went somewhere, he just left. He's not coming back. He left me. And then you have all these issues of being angry and my mom had never worked. So now we have all the financial issues and, you're just kind of angry at the world, how does, this is not fair. And I internalized it. And then in school, I started noticing I'd be walking through the hall and I would be feeling outer body experiences and I would start shaking and looking back, I was having panic attacks, full blown panic attacks in 6th grade, because I guess there's so much emotion that was not dealt with. And I internalized and just got really, really shy and really, really quiet, no voice, no, my mom was worried about me for a long time because I didn't speak. I didn't talk to people. I just was to myself. And so then I was labeled as shy.
Yeah.
So then you get these stigmas, which you're really not shy. I just didn't know how to process all of this. And so that led me into 18, graduating high school, getting pregnant with my first child, and getting married to someone I should never have married.
Right.
And that was a very volatile relationship for 10 years. And I had 3 kids with him. And I think I was maybe 6 months later, I was married again to somebody who, lived long distance and promised me the world and had all these things that I thought he was. And so I basically didn't marry what I thought I was marrying.
Yeah.
And that marriage lasted. I had 1 daughter with that marriage. That marriage lasted, I have to look, maybe like 12 years. So about 45 years old, I find myself for the first time alone.
Yes.
Usually people go from high school to college, you have your fun years, you're alone, you're doing your thing. Well, I've never, ever, ever been alone. I'm 45 years old, I'm by myself. And it's like, oh my goodness, it was a very eye-opening moment of realizing that I've lived my whole entire life surviving.
Yes.
In survival mode. Just like, how do I get through this moment? How do I get through this day? How do I breathe? How do I just like, life shouldn't be this hard. I wasn't living. I was just, like I said, you're just like, you're surviving. There's no life. There's no, like, who is Valerie? You would not know. Like, if you saw me back then, I never smiled. I just,
right.
It was sad looking back on that. So when I divorced from 45, I was 44, 45. I was like right in there. It was like 1 month from turning 45. So I say 44, 45. I was in that age. And when I finally left that last marriage, because it was just a lot to that too, I realized that I needed to find myself. Like, what, I'm the common denominator here. Like, what is going on? Why do I attract what I attract? And I just had to take some time. Now, at the moment, I wasn't saying, oh, I'm going to go on this life journey, right? Because I didn't know at that point what I was doing, but that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
My counselor called me back in and he's like, I really am concerned for you because he's like, you don't know yourself. You don't like, he was just really concerned for me to get back out there thinking that the first guy I go on a date with, I'm just going to be married to. And that probably was a good thing he called me in because I probably would have done that.
Right.
It's just easier. It's comfortable. It's like, oh, okay, somebody else to take care of me. It's just easier to not have to, take that pause and that time out to find me. And so my whole mission and my whole, like, I have friends that say, this needs to be like a mantra, or I don't know what they say, but it's like a mission, maximizing life. Like, what does that mean? And when I say that, I mean, it's the freedom to be you on your journey of becoming who you're meant to become. We all we like to compare. We like to look at other people. And I talk to so many people that live their life in the shadow of a sibling or a coworker or someone else. Like, they're always in the shadow. And it's like, that's not a way to live life, because you have special gifts and talents inside of you that the next person doesn't have. And if you're constantly looking at these other people to validate you and what should I do, you're missing out on the most magical part of life that I have found. Because when you can find your passion, your purpose, walk in your gifts, not anybody else's, and be okay to be authentically you, that's the most empowering thing that I've ever experienced in my entire life. Like, no matter what comes my way, disappointments. Yes, life is not perfect. We all have disappointments. It's so much easier to handle things when you know who you are. Yeah. And in my journey, I didn't even realize that I was looking for self-love. I heard of that when I had a life coach, but I didn't know what that was. Like, I love everybody. I love so big that I'm like, I have self-love. Like, I love more than anybody I know. So I don't know what you're talking about, this self-love thing. And I had to realize that even though I loved big, I didn't reciprocate that to myself. Yeah. And when I didn't have self-love, I realized I didn't have boundaries. And so I just took and I just let people treat me however they chose to treat me, because I was, it was just, like I said, I was just existing. I was just, getting through the moment, and you would do things to me and I would be okay with it. Yeah. And also on my journey, one thing I realized was I'm a big believer that time doesn't heal all things. That's just my personal journey, because my dad passed at 12. I did not address his death till I was 50. I went 38 years and there was no healing. And the only thing that happened in that 38 years was I created patterns in my life because I didn't heal. So what my patterns I created was anything traumatic that would happen in my life, I would immediately put it under the rug. Like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I'd be married to my husband. He'd cheat on me and immediately went under the rug. And I'd be like, well, where are we going to dinner? Like, let's go here. Let's go to a movie. Like, I'm looking back on it. It's like, I wasn't even connecting what was going on. I was just literally knowing emotionally I couldn't go there. So I just put it under the rug. So when I found my healing and when I did go back and address my dad's passing, I did go to his gravesite at 50 years old.
Yeah.
And I did talk and I did cry and all the things, just amazing things happened in like a healing process for me.
Yes.
And I was able to accept, sometimes when we heal, it doesn't mean that we feel so happy, you know what I'm saying? But I was able to accept what happened. I was able to, okay, my dad passed away. These things happen. I'm accepting it, and it just really freed me to, it just really freed me to just that next level of just being me, just constantly working on healing the things that were broken in me.
Yeah.
And when I talk to people, my clients, I always like to use like analogies and different things because that's just how my brain works.
Yeah.
And so the way I like to look at it when I talk to people is, every cell in your body is energy. We're energy. So when every cell in our body is energy, we want our energy to be as high as possible, right? Yes. So what I have found by me not addressing my dad's death, let's just say I'm a ball of energy. If I was full on vibrating, like all cylinders, like, every cell in my body is just cranking, everything's going good. But then you look at it like by me not addressing my dad's death, part of that, a piece of that pie, my energy was gone.
Yes.
By me being angry and resentful to him, part of my energy was gone. By me attracting the man in my life that I attracted, that was just, abusive and just different things, my energy was gone. So by me not healing, it's not about me forgiving for the other person. It's for me to be that full fireball of energy because I want every cell in my body to be vibrating on the highest possible level, no matter what I'm going through. I mean, all hell can be breaking loose against me, but if I have me and I have my authority and my power, I feel like I can just make it through anything, and you just make it through. So I'm really big on, trying to help people understand that you want to heal and you want to get through things because then when you do, your energy just gets better and better and then you attract better. Yeah. So imagine I lived my whole life being a counterfeit because I didn't know who I was. I didn't have any say. I didn't, I didn't know who I was, just whatever you told me. We're going here, we're going there, you're this, you're that, dress like this, do this. And so I just attracted, opportunities, friendships, all the things based on my unauthentic self.
Yeah.
And so you're going through life and just wondering, like, okay, why is life not turning out for me? I believe you have to find you.
Yes.
And when you get to that point that you find you, now we're at the starting point because now it's like, okay, I'm going to live in my lane. I'm going to be authentic to me. I am going to be everybody's cheerleader. I love cheering other women on, other people on, because I'm not in competition with them. I don't even care if they're life coaches, public speakers, because they're not me. I'm not them, right? I have my own gifts, my own way of sharing, my own everything. So when you get to that place in life that you accept you, that you love you, that you have found your purpose, and this is a process. I mean, I think I will be working on this till the rest of my life, right? I'm not telling people this is just an easy thing, because it's just been one phase after the other that I just continue to keep growing. And I was telling someone the other day, I'm going through like hyper growth right now, and it hurts. I mean, there's times I get home and I'm just in my head and I'm like going, okay, I just need to breathe. And I just need to like, just time out, not talk. Like I just need, but I mean, I'm happy and I'm thankful for all of the growth and all the things that are happening. But, and I had to realize too, a lot of times when growth is happening and it's uncomfortable and you're not familiar with it, it doesn't make it a bad thing. It doesn't make it wrong. Before, when I would have growth happen, I would want to stop. Wait, something's not right. This doesn't feel right. This isn't. But now I embrace the uncomfortable. Now I embrace when I'm not in my comfort zone. Now I embrace when, things don't feel right. I feel like I was dropped in the middle of a desert somewhere and I've never been here before. I'm trying to figure it out, because I haven't been there before. It's uncharted territory for me. But
Yeah.
The growth that happens has just been, and it's just been incredible. It's just one little piece leads to the next and one piece leads to the next. And I just believe that if you're searching and you're putting things forward to invest in yourself,
Yes.
things going to lead to the next. Like I was someone the other day, we were talking about like, you need to own that you're a queen. Like,
we are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Sorry, are you there?
Okay. We're back. I didn't know if you were there or not, so I'm talking. So I'm like, wait, I'm looking and I'm getting all sidetracked. Like, I don't think he's there, and I'm talking, but okay.
Yeah, I did mention for the listeners, because I like to be fairly transparent in what's happening in the show, and for the listeners, I mentioned that sometimes I might be looking down, taking notes, and I think Valerie was sitting there going, "What's he doing? He's frozen." But it was an internet issue on my end. I've just changed my server, so I apologize for that.
That's totally fine. I don't even know where you lost me at. So
yeah, you were talking. You'd mentioned about that you were finding you, and then because you were going out and you were dressing in a certain way and behaving as in accordance with other people, and then it became a process of that you found you, and then it was more about what was right for you is where we lost you.
So okay, so I'm just saying, so as I've been growing in my journey, people are like, well, how did you, people that know me from my past are like, how, like, I don't know anybody who's gone from where I used to know you and where you're at today.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just about being open to searching, investing in yourself. For me, one thing leads to the next. It's like I was sharing a minute ago, I spoke with a friend and she's like, you're a queen, and you need to understand that, and you behave like a queen. And I really didn't know what she meant by that. So my mind's always going and, I want to, understand. And so when I got home, I Googled, what does it mean to be a queen? And then I found a book on it, and I listened to the whole book on Audible, like in 2 days, because I was so intrigued by this book. And I realized, in my past, I attracted boys, princesses. Like, I didn't attract what I want, because I'm not, if I want a king in my life and I'm single, or you're single and you're wanting a king to come into your life, or vice versa, if you're wanting a queen to come into your life, like, back in the days, they would groom those girls for years to get ready to go before the king, to be, they're groomed and they're ready, and the things that they would have to, walk, talk, be. And I think when you're in a place of in dating, and a lot of times being alone is not the worst thing. You invest in yourself. You invest to become the queen, because when you invest, what that means into becoming a queen and walking and talking and acting like a queen, you'll attract your king. And, being a queen is not, queens are givers. And, they were talking about in the book how they were just sharing about Queen Esther, how she was, and I didn't know this, but she went before the king and wanted her people to be let free. Yeah. But the choice of going before the king was either he was going to kill her or he was going to let them free. So she is giving almost of her life, right? As a queen, like that's what she stood for. Like, I'm willing to give up my life for what I believe in. Yes. So there's a lot of just incredible things of the characteristics of a queen. Yeah. And so walking, talking, acting, it's not arrogant. It's just knowing your value. And when there's true kings out there, they're not looking for anything but a queen. And so when you're wanting to be somewhere in life, you have to realize there's a process. It doesn't happen like overnight. Like who I need to become, like today, I'm okay to get on a stage and talk in front of 100 people, maybe 500 people. Yeah. But in time, if I'm getting on a stage in front of 10,000 people, oh, okay, I got to become a different person. I mean, I have to a lot of things have to I have to, my confidence has to be there, and how do I read the room, and just all the things where I have to grow into that. So, life is just about growing. You're either growing, you're going forward, or you're going backwards. There's no staying in the middle. And so I don't think a lot of people realize that investment in yourself it's really important to invest in yourself. And I really feel like a lot of people don't, invest in your health, invest in you, because you are your longest relationship. Yeah. When you're happy and you're feeling good, exactly. When you're happy and you're feeling good, you're going to be better to everybody else around you. Right. So I have just learned that it's really important. Before I used to think self-love was selfish and taking care of myself. And what do you mean? Like take care, like be able to say no to things I don't want to do. And I need to please these people and serve these people, but that's not necessarily always the truth, right? There's times that you have to take time for you and to be the best version of you, then you're better to those people in your life.
Yeah, there's a reason when you're on the plane, they say put your oxygen mask on yourself first before helping others.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can we go back a little bit to because there's a lot there, a lot of really wonderful things, and I want to go through a lot of that, but I want to come right back to when this part you mentioned about. There's two parts I connected, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you mentioned your dad died and you were there. And you experienced that, and that was highly traumatic, obviously, because as a 12-year-old, you ran to your room, and your mum and you never spoke about it from then. And then you mentioned you're having the panic attacks, but then there was also you mentioned, and I maybe I've connected this incorrectly, but you said that you were in these relationships because there was someone to take care of you. Now, is that a connection to going back to this traumatic loss of your dad? As you mentioned, your mum didn't work. So your dad suddenly died. You've never spoken about it, and then you've entered into two long-term relationships that I can tell that weren't very nice.
Right.
But you've stayed in there. Talk about this. You said someone to take care of you. Can you talk about that and explore what that was?
I think, the first, obviously, getting married at I was 19, I think, 18, 19, right there when I got married because I was pregnant. So, in my family, if you get pregnant, you get married. It was a Christian family, and that's just what you do. And so and I knew I shouldn't have married him because it was very volatile, but I did.
Why?
And
you want to explain what that? I mean, I know there's a religion component there, but
he was very.
Because
he was not a good person. He was in and out of jail. He was very violent, and I really didn't want to marry him, but I was pregnant. But he had mentioned if I didn't marry him, he would kill me, and I believed that at the time.
Right.
Like he was very, that relationship was really bad. So like I was with that relationship for 10 years and I literally just raised my kids and I was at home. I didn't have a car. I didn't have friends. I didn't go anywhere. He worked, he controlled it.
Yes.
And I was able to get out of that relationship because he slept with somebody very close to me. And I was like, I was done. I was like, I was able to leave that relationship. And he did some bad things here in the U.S. to somebody that he fled to another country. And if he ever comes back to the U.S., he'll be in prison for life. So I will never have to cross his path again. But that was a very, very, like I have forgotten more things in my life regarding him than I went through. My kids remind me of things. I remember me waking them up in the middle of the night and putting them in the car at 2 a.m. to take them to a hotel because he called and said he was coming home to kill us.
Right.
And so I get my kids in the car and my heart was racing just to get out of the neighborhood where he went past me, and so it was just a very, I knew that all from like kind of day one, because I kind of knew his ways. So I was really scared. I'm like, okay, maybe I can change him. Maybe by having a baby, he'll like, calm, but one thing I learned there, it's like at my age, I just wish, the younger generation, people could realize when you're dating somebody, that's the best version you're going to get of them. You're not going to, you don't typically change people.
That's part of why I want to explore that, if you're okay to do that, because part of that, the message that we are sharing is how to, we want to move towards, a more egalitarian society, but also part of that is how do we avoid these situations? Obviously, you're in this difficult situation, but as you said, all that was there at the start. So I wanted to talk through that. And as you mentioned there, that the person that you met at the start that's the best version that you're going to get.
Yeah.
You want to talk us through a little bit about that, and because I think there's a lot there for people to unpack, certainly younger people, to go, hey, be careful about getting into a relationship hoping that someone's going to change.
Right. I just, he came from a very hard family. There was I think there was 8 kids in his family, and they all had issues. They're a very violent family. They just, the kids would fight the dad, and there was just a very violent family. You could be sitting there at dinner, and then all of a sudden the marble ashtray is thrown across the room and hits someone in the head. And then everybody's fighting and the police come, you're just like, well, what just happened? It's like, okay, what? So but I always was like, I felt sorry for him because I'm like, oh, he's not that person. It's just his family. It's what he's raised in. I can see through this because, 100% of what somebody is, I could see 10% of him. I could see that good, right? There's these moments that I would see, and that's what I would hang on to. Like, oh, it's in there. Oh, that little 10%'s there. I know it's possible for him to be this person. But it just wasn't who he was. It just wasn't, he just didn't want to change. He just didn't, I don't know if it's that he wanted to or couldn't or didn't know how to, but even to this day, he's still living the same lifestyle in his other country. And so it's very hard because when you do love somebody, you're like, you want them to change. But what I've realized is who a person is who they are. And so people tell us all the time who they are. We just like to overlook it.
Yeah.
I talk to people so many times and when I'm doing my life coaching and I'm talking to them and they're opening up to me. And, then they're in this relationship and now he's cheating and they're going through this whole thing. And I would ask them, I said, well, when you first met him and you were first talking, did you have any clues that he could possibly cheat? And they're like, I will tell you 9.5 times out of 10, they always say yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I knew it in my gut. I knew it because of this. I knew it because he hit his phone. I knew it because all these things, why they knew. And, we still, for whatever reason, overlook it, and that's the hard thing. That is the hard thing because so many people do it. You have to, some people just have to learn their lesson, but hopefully I'm in a place now that I'm trying to learn from other people's things and listen and learn and be like, okay. It's
always better to learn from someone else's mistakes than
right,
go
so
through it
you're,
yourself.
Whenever, exactly, because one of the guys, I've only dated one time since the 8 years I've been divorced. And, he wouldn't let me look at his phone. He wouldn't let me post us on social media, just all these things. But he had really good reasons. But in my gut, I knew something didn't line up. And I was with him for 2 years and I just went through so many things with that relationship too. So that's kind of when about 3 years ago, that relationship ended. And that's when I really dug in and said, okay, I need to figure me out. I need to figure out why I just, I know I'm an empath and I get that. And I understand that I'm very empathetic and I know that I always would attract narcissistic people and their behaviors for whatever reason, that combination, I would just really attract that.
Yeah.
And if something kind of came to me because, people give a narcissist such a bad name. And I'm not for narcissistic, but I'm just saying, so let's just say we have a scale here. This is the narcissistic here, and this is the empath here. The men I was with were so narcissistic and I was so empathic. There has to be a balance to be in the middle, right? Because we can't be all the way over here and we can't be all the way over here. So I like to tell people again in my analogies, let's just say the narcissistic person, we are only going to let him inhale. Yeah. And the empathic person, we're only going to let her exhale. Who's going to live longer?
Yeah, they're both going to die.
So life is about balance. It's not about, so realizing, so I hear people, a lot of people that I talk to, women especially, oh, I'm just an empath. I don't know how to get past that. I'm just so giving and this and that. And when I could see it from that perspective, like, okay, it's good to be an empath. It's good to have feelings. It's good to care. But when you go way off out of balance, you need to look at that like, okay, you've got to find some balance there because it's no different than someone who's way over here. You see what I'm saying? Kind of what I'm saying there, like trying to bring it.
No, I completely understand what you're saying and so I do want to explore that if you're okay with it because I can relate to that early in my life and I'm 50 as well. I and I don't have any things turned on. So this is
you don't look 50.
I know. I get that. It was a curse when I was 18 and trying to buy alcohol and they kept asking me for ID, but now it's a blessing. So that I look
right. Yes.
But similar sort of thing. Early on in my life, I attracted a certain sort of person, I'm still trying to understand, was that love, or because the person, if I'm honest with myself and looked back at the end of the relationship, at the end of the relationship, I look back at the relationship, all those behaviors were there at the start. I just chose to ignore them. And also too, when I dated someone that was nice and that for some reason I wasn't attracted to that. And I was trying to work out what that was. And you mentioned about, with the first husband you were with, that you loved him, but and you said 10% of the time he was a good person, but those other 10% he wasn't. And I'm guessing part of that he wasn't was also towards you. How, from that perspective, how do we, if we were to reconcile, I love them, but they're treating me badly, does that come back to this self-love? Because I look at it now and go, and I've had that experience where people have started to treat me that way when I was, when I was back dating after I went through my process. When someone, it just, as soon as that behavior went, I just said, nah, and walked away. And I just wonder from that perspective, how does that self-love and being aware of that link to, you actually going, well, actually, that's not love. This is the feeling a void in myself or something like that. Do you want to talk through your experience with that?
Okay, so you said a lot there, so I'm trying to follow exactly what you're saying on self-love.
Well,
you're saying when you had a relationship and you saw that it wasn't going right, you were able to.
Well, initially I went to, when I was younger, I had that process like you were talking about, you're going, I hope that person changes.
Right.
And all the signals that were there, but I chose to ignore them. And eventually the relationship ended, which is what it was going to do. But so it was part of that process was going, okay, I love them, so I'm accepting of that behavior because that's what love is. So some way I'm reconciling that when I was younger. Nowadays, the Damien today, with as soon as you cross a minute line, I'm like, no, not interested. But that's to do with my own self-love of me. That's my experience.
Right, because you have boundaries now. So now you're able to know, like, to me, this is what love is and this is not. So you have what you will, what you're willing to, take and not take. But, a lot of times how other people treat us, it's just a reflection of what's going on in them. It's, some people don't take the time to heal from childhood things. They don't, many times people will act the way they saw their parents act, or, it's all they know, and they get very comfortable in that. So they don't see anything wrong with it, but yet they don't realize they're self-sabotaging a relationship because nobody sits down and helps them talk through it. Then they just get walked out on or left. And so there's so much to that. And there's three main attachment styles. I've been reading books on this as well. You have the secure, and then you have the avoidant, and you have the anxious. So a lot of times in relationships too, when you have an avoidant and an anxious together, those relationships are very hard to work. And when you can understand what that means,
I can see that as you're talking about it. That just sounds.
Yes. One, is anxious because maybe they've been cheated on in the past.
Yeah.
And then the avoidant doesn't ever want to talk anything because of his past. He just puts a big front up, like, macho man or whatever. Like, it could be female or male, but you're avoiding. And then, it's relationships are interesting. Human behavior is just fascinating, but, understanding the attachment styles and understanding that you can heal. I was anxious in my relationship. So I used to be anxious because I was cheated on so much and I have an intuition. So I always know when it's coming. And then I get upset because I'm like, no, this is not happening. And so I just try to ignore it. And then it happens. And I'm like, I just know because I've been around the block too many times. And so I was very anxious. So in my healing process, I've retaken those tests because there's free tests online, attachment style quiz, if you look them up.
Right.
And I've taken it twice, and both times I'm secure, but I have put a lot of work into it, into loving me to become secure, because now you're not living and you're not having relationships out of fear, So now when I date someone, like, I know, like, I don't.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
I'm back again. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I stopped that time because I'm like, okay, it went out.
Thank you. But, so that process of, going through and finding that self-love and the boundaries, because you mentioned, one of the things you mentioned there was being secure in your, you've done the test and you are now secure. I mean, from before, and you said you were anxious. How does someone recognize that? Because again, I really like for people entering into a relationship, from my experience and what I've seen in what I've experienced personally and what I've seen in other people, and you seem to be validating that as well, is that the person's behavior, like you mentioned, is the best that they're going to get when you're starting. After that, it's not, So how do we share that with people and get people to understand that, hey, if this is not good for you at the beginning, it's very unlikely that it's going to change as we're going forward. Not saying it won't, but putting your hope on that is probably putting yourself at risk and not putting your oxygen mask on first. How do we explain that to people?
For me, when you just take that time to know you and love you, it's like you can look at if a person has a son or a daughter and they have children, and you say, well, would you let your daughter go through this, or your son? Well, absolutely not. I wouldn't want to date someone like that. But why you? Well, I love them. Well, why don't you love yourself? You have to really know that you're important and your worth and your value, and take the time. I know it sounds, nobody wants to take that time out, but my theory on one side note of this is, the first divorce rate is like 50%, second divorce is like 60, third is 70.
Yeah.
And my take on that is because we jump from one to the next, and we take our baggage from here, and we take our baggage to here, and we take our baggage here, and our baggage gets heavier each time.
Yes.
So obviously the divorce rate's higher. So if people could just take a deep breath, and know it's hard, because trust me, I was never alone until I was 44. I get it. I get it. I said I would never be alone. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. It is the best thing you can do for yourself, to take some time to heal and to know you and what do you like, and do things that make you happy, and get out of the rut that you're in. Just try new things and find that self-love, and take some time. And it does take time, and there's steps. And that's like when I found my life coach, and that's why I'm so passionate about life coaching. So,
yeah.
I do my life coaching, and that's probably one of the main things that I work with people on, is just helping them through the steps in the process of reprogramming their subconscious, and how we do that, to changing to believing, that you're worthy, that you're valuable. Because, I could ask you today, hey, do you remember somebody ever saying anything negative over to you as a child? You don't have to say what it is, but do you remember anything negative ever said over you as a child?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So we remember that, right? It's in the subconscious.
Yeah.
So words stick in our subconscious.
Yeah. I think everything sticks in our subconscious, doesn't it?
It does. It does. So when you're wanting to overcome something, like when I left my second marriage, I could not say the words, I am beautiful. They would not come off my tongue.
Really?
Because I was in 2 relationships where I was told I was ugly, I was fat, I would never make it. I would have them pinch my fat. Whether it's true or not, when you're told that for like 24 years, it messes with your head. So, and then people didn't like me because I was quiet and shy and didn't talk, because they thought I was stuck up because I was too pretty for myself. But they didn't know the war I had going on inside of myself, that I've been told I'm ugly. And I think I really thought I was the ugliest person on the planet. Like, I really believe that. And so for me to change my subconscious every single day, as hard as it was, but I am beautiful. Like, I would try to get it off my tongue, and I couldn't. I literally couldn't, but I was trying.
Yeah.
It took me 4 years.
Yeah.
So where I could say I am beautiful. And now we're 8 years in, I can say I am beautiful. Yes. Because I know beauty begins within the heart. It's not just, so I have come so far in 8 years, but it's just reprogramming my subconscious. And it's possible for anybody to reprogram it. It just takes some guidance, some steps, sometimes a coach along the way with you, just to help you to, no different than if you're in the gym working out. Sometimes we just need a little coaching on some things. And for me, it made all the difference in the world. That was like really helping me on my path.
It's really interesting what you've said there about the subconscious, because once you get to that point, I think we have to go through. I wonder if we do have to go through the process, but we do go through a process. And something that I learned was that your beliefs, they're just a thought that you've repeated over and over again. They're not real. They're not true. Whatever that thought process is, and as you mentioned there, for 24 years you've had this thoughts or people telling, or a person telling you that you're not pretty, or words to that effect. And so you've taken that on and you've processed it. But then what you've done is you've just talked about that process where I'm taking it, all you did to reverse that was then just repeat different thoughts, and they become a habit. And I think it's that simple, but maybe I'm wrong. Is it that simple of just saying, okay, it's different thoughts to yourself?
Every day I would say it. And then when people would say to me, I'm beautiful, before I would always discount it. Oh, no, but now I had to just be mindful when someone says I'm beautiful, I would say, thank you. I would, every single morning I have my morning routine, and I listen to at least 15 to 20 minutes of something on a YouTube podcast or anything motivational or positive. There's several people I enjoy listening to. And I start my day off every day with positive. I have my positive affirmations. I speak out loud. For me, I have goals and visions for my business and for my things that I want to do. So the more you get to where you keep repeating them out loud, the more you're going to believe it. So the more your subconscious is going to believe you, if that makes sense. Like in the beginning, my subconscious wasn't really believing I am beautiful, like, because I can't say it. But now when I can say I am beautiful, like you see the difference, like it really, so different things. Like when I wake up every morning, I say, I am a best-selling author. I am a world-renowned speaker. I am on stages empowering and uplifting people to their higher self, to see their potential. Like I speak it out every day. Is it happening right now? No, but I speak it. Like I put those things out there. So I know, like in my mindset, when opportunities and things come, I'm ready because I believe I'm worthy. I believe that's my calling. I believe so. I really, really do think that there's so much power in our words and being mindful of. Now, don't get me wrong. I have a million negative thoughts every day.
Yeah.
But you will never hear me say them. I won't say them. So that you look at my thought, I think of my thoughts like clouds passing by. Okay, the clouds passing. I don't have to address that thought.
Yes.
And a lot of times I speak the opposite out. There's days, for some people, I'm just being real. Sometimes like, okay, I wish my bank account had more money in it, but I don't say that, right? Because I know I'm doing all I can do. I'll just say out loud, I am a money magnet. Money comes to me in expected and unexpected ways.
I love it because I use exactly those same words.
It sounds so silly, but every month I make it.
Yeah.
Every month things work out, so I know there is power in our words. Like one thing I love to tell people is your words create your world. So if you can follow someone around and you see someone who's not living their best life, and you just really analyze them and you record with them not knowing what they're saying. And then you really sit down and you look at the words that come out of their mouth and you look at the life they're living. It's gonna line up.
Yeah. No, so
that's why it's just so important. Your words, you just realize what you're saying. You're really speaking to like existence. Like I would be careful on what I say.
Well, and that's very true. And sorry, I was laughing very much there when you talked about being a money magnet, because I use exactly those same words for a long time. I'm a massive money magnet. And you're right. It just seems to make things seem to fall into place. And whenever there's been extra expenses, the money has come for me. That's just how it's worked. But one thing I wanted to touch on there with what you were talking about, because I had someone say to me, they said, oh, if I had what you had, I'd be a better person. And I said, actually, no, you've got to flip it. When you're a better person, you'll have what I have.
Right.
And I don't know that better person was the right way of putting that, but that was their words. But when you have the thinking and philosophy, was that your experience? When you changed how you were thinking, your life changed? Is that what your experience was?
Absolutely. My thinking, the things I would listen to in the morning, starting out with my positive affirmations, listening to positive things. I just needed to fill my head with positivity. Before I left my last marriage, I was having a panic attack every day of my life for the last year I was with him. Like it was really, really bad. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm either going to die or I'm leaving. And in that marriage, when I left, I lived in a 6,000 square foot home. I drove a $200,000 car. Like money was no option. Like that was a very tough decision to make, but I had to. It was just emotionally it was not good for me. And I had to really change my words, and I had to really surround my mindset with positivity and being around people who were already at places I wanted to be. or, I was really mindful to try to be with people that were above so they could, I'm like, as I'm trying to get there, they're more encouraging than when you hang out with people who are below you, because they're going to tell you why you can't do that because they haven't done it.
Yeah.
And so, I think the biggest thing for me though is the speaking, because when you believe that you can do something, when you truly believe it, it's game on, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where you have to get, and it gets, that's why we have cheerleaders, we have coaches that, you get in the football game and you get in the huddle and the coaches, they're rah, rah, and everybody's like, building each other up, and we've got this. And then it's the mindset and you just go crush it. But, if your mindset is, I can't do this, this is too hard, I'll never, of course, that's what you're going to have.
Yeah, there's something you just said there which stood out for me, and I hadn't heard that put that way before. But you said that when who you associate with, that the people that you mentioned that above you, but that you're aspiring to be like, they encourage you, whereas the other people want to drag you down. And I like that distinction because I hadn't heard it put that way before. Was that something you consciously made a change of? Because it's interesting, the people that are good for you don't have this limiting or fear that if you're better that they're going to miss out somehow. You're actually, they want to encourage you. It's not like there's this feeling of scarcity, so to speak. Was that a conscious decision to change who you associate with? And was that a factor of what you put in place? Because some people have difficulty changing who they associate with. How do you do that?
So it just organically happened for me as I started growing as a person, and I started talking differently, behaving differently. My girlfriends, for the most part, didn't like it. So I started losing friends.
Yes.
Because I was no longer letting them control me. Where before, I would do what they say, or I would, well, now I'm finding my voice. Now I'm finding what I like. And now I'm finding what I want to do. And so I have found that when you start growing, a lot of times when you grow, the people that are in your life don't go with you. And that's very heartbreaking. It doesn't make them bad people. No. It's just, if you want to break out of that mindset, that level of living, there are times where, and maybe in time that person will break out and grow. We're all on a path of life on different journeys, right? We all have different times of growth and things we go through. So maybe in time that person will come back in your life, or they'll grow. I'm not saying anybody's a bad person, but when you're growing, what I have realized was I literally lost all my friends. And so, and then I started realizing that people were telling me, you become like the average of the top 5 people you hang around with. So then I'm like, well, okay, I need to be around people that are have done the things that I want to do, because obviously they're going to encourage you because they know it can be done because they've done it. Yeah. Rather than hanging out with people who have never written books or been public speakers or, life coaches. And to them, that's like, okay, that's too hard. Why would, then you have that negative in your ear. And so you have to realize it's not that they're bad people. They're going to project, they're going to say to you, and they're going to project how they feel. Yeah. And, sometimes it's very hurtful when you tell your dreams to people. You have to be careful who you say them to, because most people will tell you why you can't do what your dream is. And what I have learned is your dream was put inside of you, not another person. So you can't look to somebody else to validate your dream. Yeah. Because you're asking somebody else to validate something that they know they couldn't do. And so their projection to you is going to be why you shouldn't do that, why it's too hard, why it's too much of a risk, because they know they couldn't do it. Yeah. And they love and care about you so much many times that they don't want to see you go down this road of failure. So they're going to tell you don't, and people will listen to that, and they won't walk in their calling because somebody very close to them, a mom, a dad, somebody very close to them, said no. So a lot of times I've had to realize you just have to just jump and just go do what if it's in your heart and that's what you're called to do, don't let anybody hold you back.
And is that facing fear, just to let that go and just go for it anyway?
Yes, because it's not failure. So if you get out there and, like I'm on a podcast with you. Yeah. And before I would not want to get on a podcast with you because we didn't talk about this in here, but I have ADD and I also have something else. I don't know what you call it, but I will literally forget what I'm saying. Yes. Forget. I mean, it's not there. And that can be super embarrassing when you're trying to talk to somebody and then you're like, well, so I could either let my fear hold me back and say, okay, well, you can't do that because you're going to get on stages and talk to people. And then that's going to happen. And why would you do that? And that's just not for you. And I could have all the reasons and they could be right. But I know in my heart that I'm going to be authentically me. And I know my calling. And I know that, one of the main messages that I speak is unleash your inner superhero. We all have one. And I have t-shirts coming out that I'm having made. And, when that superhero is launched out of you, it's launched into it's launched into your, it's out of your comfort zone. When we're launched, you're launched out of your comfort zone. And that's where growth happens. That's where the magical things in life happens. That's where, you find out what you're made out of, but it's where nothing is going to change in your comfort zone. Yeah. It just doesn't happen like that. So you do have to face your fear. You do have to know. And then you also have to know failure isn't failure. Failure is just telling you, okay, that didn't work. So next time we do it like this. Okay, that didn't work. Next time we do it like this. Instead of looking at it like, oh, I got on that podcast and I forgot everything I said. That was just such a failure. I'm never doing it again. Yeah. Like, well, no. Like, you're just authentic. You're real. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to get on here and tell anybody I'm perfect. I'm just me. And I feel like that when people can find their authentic self, and that's what I mean, unleash your inner superhero, your authentic self. Like when you were 10 years old and you were like at your home and for girls, we twirled around the house and we danced and we played makeup and we played dress up and we didn't even match our clothes right? We're just us. Yeah. We didn't care what anybody said. We didn't care what anybody thought. We didn't care, we were just us. Yeah. And then what happens in life? What point in life do we get to that now all of a sudden we stop being the real us and we stop letting the world see who we are and we lose our voice and we just conform to what people tell us to say and do and be and because we're fearful and we're not sure and I love authentic people. I don't even care if I agree with your lifestyle or whatever. I am drawn to authentic people of all cultures. And I'm fascinated with it. I love it. And there's just something about an authentic person, like just that just inspiring to me.
It's interesting what you've said there, and I want to touch on that as well, because the authenticity, but from your perspective, for people wanting to break out, I was fortunate, although I hated it as a kid, that my mum was always saying, doesn't matter what anybody else says, do what you want to do. And some things I used to find him.
Awesome.
Awesome. It was embarrassing as a young kid. It's like my mum doing this stuff. I go, but as an adult, I think because I had that from a younger age, but what I did, and I just wonder if it's something similar from your perspective, because and whether it's helpful for people listening, is when we want to break out and we're worried about this failure, and that's why I say I really don't edit the podcast, because it's like it's okay to make these mistakes. Right. But what I've found in a reframe for that as well is when you're the authentic self, and I look at some of the things I've done, and I've monumentally, effed things up in my life sometimes. But what I've found is the people that really cared about me stayed with me. They might not have agreed with what I did, but they've gone, hey, and we've had the discussion and talked about these things. But that's where I found out who were truly friends and who weren't. Whereas if you get out there and make a mistake and someone, bags you for it or criticizes you for it, you go, well, I'm human and I've made a mistake, and now we're finding out where there's, whereas I find that if you're authentic and you mess up, other people that will go, hey, maybe that wasn't the best thing to do. Here's something, and they'll be supportive of that. Is that your experience when you put things out there and made mistakes? And what would you do to encourage people to just give it a go? And how would you reframe that?
I'm with you. I really think there's nothing more than being authentic to you, because we could live a life and I've lived this before, where I'll ask this girlfriend, what do you think about this? And I get advice. And then I ask another person, what do you think? And I get that advice. And what do you think? I'm never going to please all of them. So at the end of the day, I need to please me. Yes. Because I live with me. I need to do what I know in my heart's right. If I lay down my head at night and I go to sleep and I know, even if it is, like you said, the biggest mess up, but I'm feeling like I did my best. And that's at the moment, that's what I really felt was right. you know, like you said, the people that are in your corner, they're going to be there for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that unconditional love, you know, okay, yes, you messed up. We're going to get through it. Those are the people that you want in your corner. And, you know, there's people in a lifetime. I was talking to somebody that did research on this, but you may only have some people, 1, 2, or 3 people like that in your entire lifetime.
Yes.
That are literally unconditionally loving you in your corner. You know, people come in our life for a reason, a season, to teach us something. So people are strategically placed in our life for reasons. So we get so attached that we think every person has to be in our life forever.
Yeah.
It's like, it's for that season, you know, like if you're like, I think about when I went to, I was in Paris, you know, that's all I can think about. They have the trains there, the train stations.
Yes.
When I was there, you know, so if my stop is to get on this train A, because my journey is this way, and the next person's that I'm with is like, oh, your stop is C, you got to get off on this train. We're all like maneuvering and living life in different ways, but we need people to connect, to network. You know, this person introduced you to this person to that person, this person's in your life for a season. And I think we complicate it. We just get so attached, like, and then we fall apart, and then we fall apart, and then we quit because we're like, well, everybody leaves me. And this is just not how, you know, instead of just taking a deep breath and realizing, you know, just listen to your heart, you know, work on being the best version of you. And at the end of the day, your self-love, your self-care, your mindset, your mental and emotional, all of that is what matters. Yeah. Because we will never be good enough for the wrong people. Yes. And we will never be
That's so true.
You know, and for the right people, you know, you just are. And they just, you know, they just accept you. So some people in our life we can never do, no matter what we try to do. We're never going to do it right. We're never going to do it. And that's exhausting. And yes. I know we hang on to those people because we want it to change or we love them. But there's hard, you know, life is not easy. There is no manuals. I will tell you that some of the hardest decisions I've had to make in my life have been the best decisions. You know, you look back on it and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so thankful that I got out of that relationship. But at the time, I was mad at God and anybody else I could be mad at. I was just angry. Like, I was angry at everybody. Like, you know, how dare you put somebody in my life that's my soulmate and everything that I dreamed of and all these things. And then you get me there and then you take him, you know, and it's just like, okay, you get in that self-pitiness. But looking back, it's like, wow, that was, you know, nothing wrong with him. I mean, I'm in a very, very like secure place, but we just weren't, like, for long term, our just mindsets, our goals, our visions, our everything was not balanced.
Yeah. How much of that do you think is, and coming back, because you mentioned about being, you hadn't been alone, but then you became comfortable being alone, and relating that to, again, your experience in Paris with it, getting on the trains and getting off the trains. How much of that is being comfortable with you? Being comfortable with yourself is what I'm getting at. If you're comfortable with yourself, it's okay if someone comes in and then goes out. It's okay if someone stays. It's okay if someone's not even there. Like, you meet someone and I'm not just talking a personal relationship, but just you might have a business transaction. You go, oh, you know, I want to make this business deal happen, but it didn't work. But that's okay because I'm comfortable with me. How important is that to accepting
everything goes back
change?
to you everything goes back with you being comfortable with you.
Yeah.
Because I live life now without expectations, and I'm getting back in the dating world and I'm going on dates and stuff, but my first, second, third, for whatever, I'm not like, I don't have expectations. In the beginning, I'm just getting to know a person, or I'm getting to know this person. Like, I think we jump in too fast. I think a lot of people, and my anxious attachment style before, because I was anxious, that's what anxious do. Like, they want to be on the first date and you're committed. And, you know, and that can push people away. And so I'm just realizing, take a deep breath, because this next person I want to be with and marry, I'm almost 52, will be for the rest of my life. So why do I need to rush it? Why do I need to, first person I'm dating and they're nice, think they're the one, you know? So it's almost just bring it down, take a deep breath. You know, if you have to find relationship coaching or whatever to have somebody help you, it is, you know, you're talking an investment for the rest of your life, because when you're with the right person, you complement each other, and you're going to go so far in life, because there's no when you're with the right person, there's no jealousy. There's no, I'm better than you. Like you're two complete people instead of two people completing each other. Now you're only one.
Yeah.
But when you're two complete people, you know, you're in each other's corner, and you're the, you know, it's, you see power couples, they call it power couples like that, because you literally do feed off of each other's energy, and you do more and you give more and you are more. And it's like, in the end, it's worth waiting to have that than to be like, oh, that person completes me. If somebody's completing you, I would have to like say, you know, think about that, because I used to always say, oh, that person completed me. Well, there were things in me that were broken that they completed that I needed to have healing with. And I wasn't going to heal if they were completing me. And yet I was never going to feel like I'm a full person, because I need to be healed and whole on my own. Because, you know, nobody is guaranteed to be in our life forever. So we can't put that much power into somebody else to say, well, you know, you complete me. Like, you know, we have to really, again, just know that you're important, know that you matter, know that, you know, your voice matters, and you are valuable and you are worthy and all those things. And regardless of what somebody tells you, you know, it's interesting that people will live their whole life. Oh, but my mom says this about me, or my dad, and it's some horrible things. And you don't really, it is horrible to hear that from people you love. Yeah. And, you know, I'm never going to be anything, and I'm this, and they believe it. And again, like in coaching, I go through things that are, you know, people have these limiting beliefs from childhood. Yes. Oh, well, I was raised, my parents just said I wasn't smart. I was just never going to be anything. And they live a lifetime believing that. And you have to break those limiting beliefs, because just because somebody, I don't care who it is, tells you something does not make it true. No, that's very right. That's so true. And I love what you're saying there, because I have a lovely couple that I know in Canada. They rescue marriages, and they talk about, you don't have marriage problems. You're two people bringing problems to a marriage. So I love what you're talking about, being a whole person first. I want to come back to, because we're going to run out of time, but I want to come back to what you talked about finding yourself. And I want to explore that a little bit from your perspective, as to, because I know from my perspective, I spent a lot of time, you know, trying to find myself. And then one day I said, well, this is who I choose to be. And rather than, you know, hoping to find myself, I just made a decision. This is the person I am, and live that. Do we have to find ourselves, or can we go through that process and just say, bugger it, I'm going to be this person, and go through that? Or are we destined to be a certain sort of person, and we have to find that? I don't think there's any right or wrong way for people to find themselves, in my opinion. I think we're all so differently made. Yeah. But what I think at the end of the day, are you happy inside? Are you at peace? Are you being authentically you? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you, yes, you could choose to be whoever you want to be, but if someone's saying that just out of, they're just tired of trying to work on themselves, and they're still frustrated inside, and they're still not like feeling their value, or, you know, they're just still like a lot of confusion in there, and they're not, then I would be like, oh, you know, you probably should still work. And, you know, like for me, a good way for me when I was trying to find myself was I found a hobby. Yeah. Okay. And, you know, I had to find a hobby, and I went through several things. I ran a Houston marathon, 26 miles. And then I realized running was not for me. I did it. I've done that too. But you try it. Then I tried tennis. Yeah. And I'm like, why is everybody getting mad? Because my ball just keeps like going over the fence, because I don't know how to like get it to them right. You know, it's like, because I'm just like hitting it. It wasn't for me, but I tried. You know, I think you have to get out there and try before you say you don't like things. Yeah. And then I remembered, then that's when I started my bodybuilding competitions. Yes. And so I would push myself to such extremes in my bodybuilding competitions that it would spill over in other areas of my life. Like, you were able to take your body from here to here. You can do that in your business. You can do that in your relationships. You can do that in your relationship with yourself. It just proved to me that I was capable for so much more. So it would inspire me and want me to, like, you know, to push further and harder in other areas of my life. So like I said, I think everybody's different on their journey to finding them. But I'd like to try to help people have an open mind and try things. Because I've had people say, well, I don't like that. Have you ever tried it? Well, no, I just know I don't like it. And then a lot of times when somebody just takes a step back and tries it and gives it a legitimate, whether it's whatever hobby or sport is, they might like it. You know, I think we just get so close-minded on things. When you choose to open up your mind and explore new things and try new things and just because you were raised in a home that you never did sports doesn't mean that sports might not be for you. You just were never around them and just don't have any, it's unfamiliar territory for you, but it doesn't make it wrong.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So
100%.
I think when you're finding yourself, the biggest thing is can have an open mind. And I think that's really, for me, was I really started having an open mind of all things. Why do I believe what I believe? I was raised in this church. Well, do I believe that? Well, why do I believe that? Why do my parents believe that? Oh, because their parents believe that? Well, because their parents believe. But, I really started questioning things because I'm like, well, we're just all copying everybody. Like, tell me why, and nobody can give me good reasons on things, So yeah. I think we do that in a lot of areas of our life. Just, we do it that way because so-and-so does it that way and so-and-so, and you just keep going back. And then maybe that's not the way to do things. So I think just having an open mind and just, just being willing to learn and open-mindedness. And there's just something about how it just keeps leading you to it keeps leading me to new ways. Like I'm continually moving forward. Like I would have, this book I'm reading right now that I absolutely love on the audacity of the Queen. And I would have never found that book had somebody not said something to me. So I'm always trying to learn and listen and look and research and, what does that mean? Why, I want to understand more about that. And that makes a lot of sense. And then now I'm starting a networking group here in the Woodlands with some girls, and it's going to be called the Queendomhood Sisterhood. And we're going to talk about, in this group that we're doing, what it's like and helping people understand how to walk, talk, think, act, and be like a queen. Yeah. And so we're breaking it all down and we have it all written out, but it's just fun. But like things, I wouldn't have known that had I not just tried. And you know what I'm saying? Like I can't, people are like, well, how do I get there? I mean, just get out and get out of your comfort zone. Yeah. Get out and do things every day that you wouldn't normally do. Speak to people you wouldn't normally speak to. Like, we need to network. We think we don't need people sometimes, but we do. And then you realize we're all in the same thing of life and we all have the same issues and the same social anxieties and just all the different things that people don't want to talk about. And, we're more common than we think.
That's true. There's so much more I could unpack there, and maybe we can have that in another discussion. But I do want to talk about your book as well. So you've written the book Maksymizing Life, and your introduction. I have got your book, and the very start of it, your introduction, you say maximizing, and you mentioned this at the very start of the podcast. Maximizing life is freedom, the freedom to be you. Could you want to talk through, the reason for writing the book and your discovery of that, and that theme within the book, which is summed up in that first line?
For me, it's like, so I love culture. Mm-hmm. I love diversity. I love all cultures. Yeah. I love all people. I love all demographics. I love all religions. Yes. I love people. I love that we all bring something different to the table. And I love to be able to agree to disagree with you and still be your friend. Like, I love to know, like, okay, you have you and you have your, and I'm me, but we can talk about it. Yeah. Still be friends, because we bring so much when we're stronger together like that. So maximizing life for me, my big vision is, the freedom to be you. Mm-hmm. It is not my job to tell you who you need to be. Yeah. Like if I'm trying to figure out me and I don't have me figured out, why do I think I can tell you who you need to be? Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So yeah. I think in life, if we could all just turn the mirror back to us and realize, okay, maximizing my life. And what that also means goes into is maximizing your mindset, your emotions, your spirituality life, your finances, your relationships, your health. Mm-hmm. We're like all these areas of our life, maximizing them, like growing in them, growing, learning how to invest money in your financial side, learning how to have better relationships with your parents, your children, your friendships, your coworkers, learning how to have that relationship with yourself. What do you do for yourself to have your mental, sanity and your emotions and just all the areas and do all of this and under the freedom of being you. Nobody coming and telling you how to do it or how to do your finances or how to have your relationships or if everybody could just take that on responsibility and just put the spotlight there, and learn to love yourself, I just feel like the world will be a whole different place, because now we're not trying to compete against each other, and we're not trying to compare against each other, and we're not trying to cutthroat each other, like get ahead and manipulate, but we're working on being the best version of ourselves. Yeah. And when you can learn and grow into the best version of yourself, and every person is growing to be the best version of themselves. Yeah. To me, there's just so many things that are, even if people can learn that in a workplace. Can you imagine you go in and you teach these workplaces, these just basic things, and people really start walking in their gifts and their talents and investing in themselves. Now they become better speakers, or better this or better that, because they're now investing in themselves to become that better person, instead of pointing the finger. Well, they didn't do that speech right, and that could have been better, and this, and they're dogging, but then turning it around and really, working on them. So that's kind of my whole, thing with maximizing life. And then in the book, I just wrote the steps in the order kind of how I would say that I went from living my life of surviving to thriving. And so there's different chapters in the book, and the chapters, someone could read one chapter and get something out of it and not have to read the other. The book doesn't necessarily have to be read in order, but it's just kind of the order that looking back, that's kind of the order of how I found my healing and found, myself and my self-love.
Yeah, well, it seems to follow a fairly logical order, and because you mentioned about throw out your baggage that's chapter 1, where that seems to be a step. We need to do that, and then you go through that point where you have a 30-day challenge, which is the last chapter, chapter 10. Do you want to just briefly describe what that 30-day challenge is? I know there's a lot in between, but just
right. So on the 30-day challenge, I'm just trying to get people to get their mindset in a positive environment. Mm-hmm. We live in a negative world. You can turn the news on, it's negative. It doesn't take much to find the negativity in things. I mean, it really doesn't. And even myself, I can turn the news on, and for 10 minutes, I'm already feeling down. Mm. I mean, 10 people have been murdered, and this happened, and the world's that you're just going, it's just a lot for our subconscious to take in. So my 30-day challenge is just really, all of it that I break it down is positivity, positive words, happy music, positive TV shows, everything for this 30 days. You're just mindfully for these 30 days, not watching it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with action movies, but during this 30-day time, we're just really putting our mind in a place of, things that make us laugh, things that make us happy. We're just, for 30 days, just working on, as I break it down into, pouring positivity in yourself. It's like we've lived all these years in a negative world. And now we're going to take a pot of life water, and we're just going to pour it for 30 days and soak your subconscious and things with it, and just see, what kind of changes you've seen in your life, or just see, did you have a mindset shift difference by doing this? Did you notice something different? Did you notice you're waking up or sleeping better at night? Did you notice, when things are just negative, and then people try to go to sleep and their brain just goes all night because they can't even stop, right? Yeah. So just seeing, if you just start filling things with positive, a lot of the negative we can't change. It's going to be there regardless. So if it's going to be there anyway, let's just set it over here on the shelf, and let's just fill ourselves with the positive and the things that we can control. And, I just love to see when I hear people respond back, oh, I did that challenge, and, I just slept better. Or I just feel, I just feel like I wake up a little happier. And it's just a challenge to see what it does for each person, just to show them what the difference is when you stop the negative self-talk. And you might catch yourself saying something, because in that 30-day challenge too, I say no negative self-talk. Yeah. And you'd be surprised. You would really be surprised. I was surprised at how many people negative self-talk without even realizing it, all day long. Oh, I'm so fat. Oh, they're just the things that they say. Oh, I'm not smart. Oh, I couldn't do that. And they don't even know that they're programming their subconscious that they can't do this, they can't do that, and they're unhealthy and they're overweight. But it doesn't have to be that way. Yeah, no, exactly. It doesn't have to be that way. I love that, and that's part of creating a habit as well. Creating that 30 days was a habit. The statistic varies somewhere between 21 and 55. I think I've seen different numbers, but 30 days is certainly going to cover creating a new habit.
I love
Right.
that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about because you've got your website. Do you want to tell us about the services that you offer and how people can contact you? Just any of the particular, this is your chance to do your product placement. I don't like ads, but product placement is more than, I love that. So,
Right. So on my website, I'm still putting all the nuts and bolts in there, but I have a really nice website, and it's just maximizinglife.com.
mhm.
Everything I do is maximizing life. So I have an Instagram, a Facebook, it's maximizing life. So it's just
Yeah.
easy to find. In the services, life coaching is my heart. I mean, when I coach somebody, I think I'm in the game more than they are, because half of the times their belief level is not there. So they need somebody
Mhm.
believing in them, providing an hour of, when you're coaching somebody, you're providing an hour of safe space
Mhm.
for them to talk.
Yeah.
They wouldn't take that time any other way, right? So in my job is I listen,
Mhm.
and I'm like a really good attorney. So
Yeah.
I know the right questions to ask. So I will
Yeah.
never tell somebody what to do. I'm
Mhm.
going to listen to whatever, if it's a relationship issue or just things you're stuck in or things that you just don't know how to get past. Or maybe you just don't know how to find self-love. Maybe you have zero confidence. Maybe you just don't even know where to even start because you don't even know. I mean,
Yes.
so I work with people all the time like this, and there's always reasons. And so I don't put any of my beliefs or anything in it. So I'm just asking the next question, and it's like the person's an onion. So maybe the first session we talk, 2 layers came off, and it was a
Yeah.
good session. Like, wow, okay, that gives me a lot to think about. And then I'll give them, depending, every person I program separately because you're a different individual. So I really put my heart and soul in whoever I'm with. I'm all in with you.
Yes.
And so I will know what I want you to work on for the next time we talk.
Mhm.
And maybe the next time we talk, and you did your homework, you did your stuff. Maybe it was just a great session. You had like 8 layers come off. I mean, you're ready to just like go like knock the, you're like ready to go. And it's like, okay, but sometimes you're like, okay, you got to come back. And then we come back the next week and you feel like you took 5 steps backwards,
Yeah.
because you just like, it's a process, right? Because we didn't get here overnight, but having a coach, when things happen like that, it keeps you going because you're like, hey, this is normal.
Yeah.
Like sometimes a few steps forward and back. So just having that safe space to talk, and maybe they tried something and they failed and they're beating themselves up. So I'm talking them through it. Well,
Mm.
why do you feel like a failure? And usually them feeling like a failure is not really the issue. It's like 5 questions down is the answer.
Yes.
Then they're like, oh my goodness. Okay, I get that. And they have these big aha moments. And
Yeah.
so, for me, I'll do one session where it's 1 hour only, but my 2 packages that I sell the most of is a 6 and 12 week. And then sometimes people buy more of those.
Mhm.
I've had one client did for 2 years just because she just wanted she just wanted the check-in. She just wanted the accountability. But I really feel like to get breakthrough, you need at least 6 weeks. And that's really a low end, but at least you can kind of get somewhere 6 to 8 weeks, because we didn't get here overnight, right? You just need to have some reinforcement for a little bit. But then there's people who are like, you know what? I don't have the finances to do that, but I would love to talk to you just once for an hour. And so then I have a rate for that as well.
Yeah.
And my first time to meet with anybody, my first call is free.
Yes.
So when anybody reaches out to me and is like, because that way I can talk to you and we can see, do we connect? Do we feel comfortable together? What are you going through? Let me give you some, things that I would recommend we could work on, the framework we could do in the coaching package. And does that sound good? And then we kind of go from there.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. Before we wind up and go, do you want to share with the audience your one or a couple of key wisdoms? If you're going to sum up a couple of key wisdoms that you want the audience to take away, what would that be? Or it can be one as well.
There's just so many. So one thing that I say is, life is a journey, not a destination. I just really think that, because I think people think if I get my first house, I'm going to be happy. If I find someone to date, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
When I have my first child, I'm going to be happy. And they live their whole life. Like when they get to this destination, they're going to find happiness and find them. You should I think one of the main things people understand that life is a journey. Like there's ups and downs, ins and outs, twists and turns, it's a journey. You have to embrace the journey and enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
It all works together. It's making you who you are today.
Yeah.
And so that's probably one of the main things. And then I always tell people, you're worthy, you're valuable, your voice matters. You know, you have so many people. If I could just get them to see it, you have so many gifts and talents inside of you.
Yeah.
So many, like so many people. And they just are scared. And it's like, what would the world be if all of us, you know, were brave enough to get out there and invest in ourselves and tap into that and really live our life like that. Like, you know, you leave a legacy for your kids, people around you that you know, it's just such an amazing, empowering feeling. But there's just so many things that I can say when it comes to encouraging and leaving, you know, things like that. But there's always, you know, another thing I tell my kids is there's always a way. There's always a way out. So anybody that's listening and they feel like there's no hope, you don't know my story, you don't understand, you don't know what I've been through, that I've probably been through pretty much everything that somebody has said they've been through, because I have been through a lot in my life, whether it be with me or my kids. And even though it seems dark and you're at the bottom, there is always a way out. It is always possible. And when plan A doesn't work, we're going to find a plan B. And when that doesn't work, we're going to find a plan C. And when that doesn't work, we're going to keep finding it until we get there, because we're not going to give up.
Love that. Love that. It's so wonderful. Valerie, it's been such an inspiring pleasure to have you on the show. It's so wonderful, such wonderful advice for people. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you for being part of the eSHAIR.care community and helping people around the world prosper. You're creating a bigger pie for everyone to share. The more people contributing to the world being a better place, the better the world becomes, for others and for you.